All right, let's spark this bad boy up. No pun intended. Got a nice little hand rolled available to me. Here's the thing. The answer to this question, why do the greats exist, is so obvious to me. It's a very translucent sort of thing. And it comes from just my observations in nature. There's no pulp fiction, there's really no ancient fucking scroll that sort of led me to these conclusions, but this is just very observable in the real world. And I do want to start with a kind of alembic around Mike Tyson, because Mike Tyson is a quintessential marquee example of someone who overlaid a tremendous, outrageous amount of strength and power over his insecurities and over his pain and over his shame. Okay? If you've ever seen the Mike Tyson documentary, which I urge that you do, there is a scene in the documentary, and he's very emotional in the scene, and he's talking about his relationship with Cus D'Amato, his coach. And he's like something to the effect of, I knew that when I was working with Cus that I would never ever get bullied or punched down again. Basically making an ode and harking back to his childhood of immense bullying and abuse. Guy had a very rocky upbringing. And he's borderline in tears. He's sobbing as he says this in the documentary. And he's like, once I went under the tutelage and the wings of my coach, he's like, I knew that those days were over. And essentially what this is not only the masculine impulse, but it's also proof that the body and the mind and the psychology and the hardwiring, particularly in the reptile brain, is a lot fucking smarter than you are. Do you understand? When there is a pain point in someone's biology, especially from an early age, there's early imprinting, there's a scar there. The body very intelligently will cast an entire personality around ensuring that that trauma and that pain is not experienced again. And in Mike Tyson's case, the bullying, whatever the fuck it was that he sustained as a youngster, there was something awakened in him. The Kraken, right? The Leviathan rose up from the deep blue and said, look, motherfucker, I am going to become the greatest brawler, the greatest power puncher, the greatest pugilist, the greatest entertainer of my era, just to incubate the pain of being a small fucking child and getting my ass beat. Like, that's how powerful a man really is. And every man on earth has this readily accessible to them. I dare you to show me a single great that is not overcompensating for some watershed moment that occurred in early life that caused them a tremendous amount of trauma. Everything is an overcompensation. Do you actually think that you get a Google arbitrarily? Like, do you actually think nature is just that experimental to where it just shuffles the deck, creates a little fucking gene swarm, and some fucking dork pops out randomly, arbitrarily, haphazardly, and has the fucking capacity to build a fucking Google or an Amazon? The answer is fuck no. The answer is fuck no. The engines, the coagulation of forces, the clashing of forces within a human being in order to even have the drive to go produce an instrument of that kind of magnanimity can literally only be fostered through pain and suffering. And if you want to get down to the nuts and bolts of the value of pain and suffering, this is it right here. We're talking about it. We're talking about it because I would say 99% of the planet doesn't even really understand where their drives or impulses are coming from. And I'm here to tell you 9 times out of 10, you are being driven, especially if you're of the manic kind. If you're of the manic cloth, you are being driven by something that is far bigger than you, far more powerful than you. You know, there's many things in life that you can brute force. Many things. You can brute force your way through a lot of stuff in life. The forces that I'm discussing right now are not brute forceable in any way, shape, or form. It's a power that will fucking bring you to your fucking knees. It'll make you suck wind. It'll punch the living fuck out of you if you don't honor it. And so you only spawn a specimen like Mike Tyson because of that pain point, because of that infliction. And so he was blessed. And I want to make this very clear. He was blessed with the curse of having to avenge, keyword avenge, whatever the fuck happened to him in his childhood, his perception of it, right? Some people are far more sensitive to pain for whatever reason. You know, there's same household siblings that their parents split up very early when they're young. One brother really is not shaken by it. The other brother might be royally fucked up by it. The brother who's royally fucked up by the divorce goes on to hack and slash his way to the top because he's avenging that pain. He's avenging that first exposure to heartbreak, which we all know is probably the true red pill for men, right? The first time you experience heartbreak as a man. And this can come in so many shapes and sizes. You know, for a lot of guys, the first heartbreak was being in the house and seeing their parents divorced from an early age because that felt like disloyalty. The Disneyland, you know, whitewashed picket fence family image crumbles apart in front of a young child's eyes. How does he respond to that? You know, the rose tinted glasses, they get fucking crunched on by cloven hoof. You know, these things happen all the time. And some kids have a very, very severe abreaction to that experience. And they go on to battle these forces within them that want to protect them from ever experiencing anything remotely similar ever again. And that is every great, anybody you see at the top, anyone you see with the gift of gab, anyone you see who becomes a fucking academic genius, anyone who fucking makes some avant-garde invention. I'm here to tell you, it's stemming. That impulse is not natural. It is stemming as an abreaction to pain. The other thing that's interesting in that documentary, because this flies in the face of a lot of the rhetoric on Twitter, is that Mike Tyson is crying in that scene on camera. I mean, he's literally somewhat bawling his eyes out. Now, I've seen a lot of keyboard warriors say how men should never, ever, ever publicly cry, or men should never, ever be seen crying. It's very, very nuanced because I had a tweet from 2020, I believe, which I think has aged very well. And I said something to the effect of that an alpha is at his most alpha when he cries. And I do believe this is true. There is not one man walking the face of this planet. Listen, there's not a woman either who saw Mike Tyson cry in that fucking scene and thought this guy's a bitch. Not one. Not a single motherfucker saw him shed a fucking tear and thought Mike Tyson's a pussy. 0% chance. Because context is fucking everything. Context is everything. We know this guy's like one of the baddest motherfuckers to ever walk the earth. Therefore, he has the privilege to fucking have an emotional outburst whenever he damn well see fit. Context is everything. Then it led me to believe, okay, let's fucking stretch the context a little bit, right? Let's stretch it out a little bit. Let's say a man in a relationship with a woman feels the need, let's say he's going through a fucking tumultuous time and he feels like he just is having a fucking breakdown, he's got to cry. Let's say he goes out of his merry way to cry in private, right? Let's say he intentionally disengages from his girl and he goes into the left wing of the house, the opposite fucking side of the house, and he shuts the fucking door. And he doesn't cry like a bitch, but let's just say he fucking has a moment with himself and he's got to fucking crouch down and shed some fucking tears, right? Now, if his woman happens to walk in on him in that context, right? He hit it, he went out of his way, he made sure not to have the eruption in front of her, but she fucking slams open the door because she needs his attention, and she catches him in the act of crying. I guarantee motherfucking to you that will have zero deleterious impact on the relationship. Zero. That will not be a stain on his resume. That will not bring him down a notch. That will not question if she can trust him. None of that shit's gonna fly because context is everything, right? He got busted in the act of doing something that he went out of his way to deal with himself. So context is fucking everything with all these little vignettes and milieus that pop up on Twitter. Because what I just said is a fucking fact. That's never gonna backfire in that particular scenario. So the bottom line, and this obviously runs counterclockwise, and this is a countervailing theory to modern therapy, is the only viable mental health model that actually only works for men is massive overcompensation. That is literally the secret to mental health for men, is that if you have a weakness, you have to massively overcompensate for it. You literally don't have a choice. You don't have a choice because, the reason they call it an edge is because the edge can cut you, like the edge, the point of the edge can sting you if it's not used correctly. So most people are going through life and they have shame and they have all this pain and they have trauma and they have clear, vivid memories of things that have caused them harm. But they're absolutely terrified to take advantage of that energy. They're terrified of it. So what happens is they go the opposite direction and they use the edge. They use the edge that they have, right? To cut themselves. It becomes like a self-abuse thing, kind of like a cutter, kind of like someone who fucking cuts their wrist. You know what I'm saying? For attention. These motherfuckers will descend into the fucking catacombs of porn, which I've sort of fleshed this out myself. There's no fucking textbook academia on this, but I am rotating a theory that I believe all men indulge in porn only when they've experienced some sort of grief, disappointment, or bereavement. I think porn is a very shameful act, and I think men give them permission to indulge in that shame when they can't get out of a rut, and it reinforces the shame. So men who are afraid to use their edge, they're the self-destructive types. These are the guys who kill themselves early and they go the opposite direction, which they were supposed to lean into it the other way. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. And so there's a pantheon of examples of motherfuckers. Look, I mean, there's people who literally go through a childhood humiliation. It could be something so minuscule, so micro, that you almost couldn't even wrap your head around it. There's motherfuckers who got humiliated in a classroom in fucking second grade, and it ignited something in their physiology and their chemistry that said, you know what? I now literally have to go fucking conquer the world. I have to get rich now. I have to fucking be the best at my craft. I got to be the best speaker. I got to be the best writer. I got to be the best because I never want to experience that sorrow and that melancholy ever again. And I will tell you, I have read extensively philosophers try to need try to need out these sort of masculine blurbs and these masculine sound bites, these masculine quotes. I've seen every philosopher's tried to grapple with masculinity, right? And make it palatable and make it digestible for the common man. It's what every great has endeavored to do this. But I believe in that documentary with Mike Tyson, that one line when he says, "I knew when I was working with Cuss that this would never happen again." And you can hear the pain in his voice. There's almost like a shrill sort of up octave that kind of drifts in and out when he's saying it. And the guy literally is tearing up. And I think that right there encapsulates the entire fucking masculine drive to build a civilization, is that this is never, ever going to happen to me again. Ever. You all know how fucking powerful that is. You know how powerful it is when you've been injured or you've been overcome by a severe ailment or a very intense heartbreak. You all know what it felt like to get to the other side of it. You know what I mean? Like, money and power corrupts a man in a different kind of way. Like, we all know when men taste money and power, there's almost no going back. You've crossed the Rubicon. It's very, very difficult to downsize a life once you've had it, right? The only thing that comes close in that intensity of that high is heartbreak. Those are the only two feelings in the male chemistry that are so overwhelmingly intense that it doesn't even make sense to try to fight it. You know what I mean? Like, you actually have to sit there and let it sweep you. You have to let it sweep you away and kind of sweep you off your feet. And there's somewhat of a levity to that. There's somewhat of a grace to that. You know what I mean? Like, on my last spaces, I was toying with the idea that you can be too strong as a man. And I do believe that. I believe that. I believe a lot of men are seeking a form of masculinity that they want to be a rock. Now, you have to understand that a rock does break under a certain kind of pressure. All rocks do. You know what I mean? You do want to be more like bamboo. You don't want to be too rigid. You don't want to be too strong. You know what I mean? Like, that's my weakness. My Achilles heel in this life is that I have made myself way too fucking strong. I can overpower any thoughts in my own head. I can bully grief. I can bully sadness. I can bully fear. I can fucking ship that shit to the far corners and recesses of my mind if I have to. And it's created a rigidity pattern in my life where, you know, when you're so strong, you shelter yourself from the lowest of lows. You know, that's the benefit of strength, is that you can handle the lowest of the lows. But the problem is, if you're too strong, you know, Nietzsche was too strong, Schopenhauer was too strong. A lot of these guys were too strong. They overcame themselves. They overpowered themselves so much that they could no longer enjoy life. You know what I mean? And that's sort of the gravestone that they sacrificed their corpses on for us. But there isn't much honor in that, because when you shelter yourself from the lowest of lows, I'm sure some of you see where I'm going with this, you'll never experience the highest of highs because you're just too strong. You're bullying everything that's in your head. And I've experienced this. Like, I genuinely don't think there's a dire situation on this earth that can rattle me anymore, because I've made myself way too fucking powerful and too strong. I literally am in complete master and commander of my body and mind. Complete. When I say it's time to go to bed, I put myself to sleep in fucking 2 minutes. I never have insomnia. I'm in charge of everything in my fucking body. When I need to instruct my body to do anything, it fucking listens. It fucking listens. But the problem is you don't really drift, and sometimes you actually do obstruct your own serendipity. You know what I mean? You instruct your own divine beneficence. That's just sort of the disadvantage of making yourself too strong. So I do think that we have to sort of try to strike a golden middle. And the only way you ever strike a golden middle is obviously swing in between all the extremes, right? You got to be super weak first, then you got to be super strong. You know what's interesting? I used to train with a physical therapist who went on to, he trains all the famous Major League Baseball players now. He became very successful. And he said something to me interesting when I was like probably 20 years old that stuck with me. He was like, you know, the only two populations in the gym that get severely injured? And I was like, what? And he was like, very weak people and very strong people. And I thought that was interesting, the very strong side. I was like, I guess that does make sense. When you're very strong, your muscles are contracting so powerfully that you can actually fucking cause harm and destroy your own system. So the very weak and the very strong get hurt the hardest. You know what I mean? But the guy just in that fucking sweet spot, he don't get hurt that often. He don't get hurt that often. And I've just found that to be a very, very fascinating sort of philosophy that I've incorporated in my life. I found that to be a very, very powerful piece of wisdom. But look, here's the deal, right? Here's sort of how we connect all the dots here. What therapy does, and the reason why therapy is a horrible approach if you're just starting out or you're like in the middle of a huge problem in your life that you're trying to tackle, you literally cannot get a Mike Tyson. You literally cannot get an Elon Musk. You can't get a Michael Jordan. You can't get any of these people if you introduce therapy into the equation on their quest. It's not possible. It's not possible because therapy will pull you out of the mania, and therapy will make basically the entire function of therapy is to make sure that you don't rise too high emotionally. Okay? Therapy wants to just mediate you out and keep you even keel. It's basically like an SSRI, but the mental version. Okay? It wants to prevent any manic episodes because it's going to tell you that's unhealthy. Now, we all know that men that exploit the fuck out of their manic episodes go to unseen heights in history, right? So my point is, as I kind of deal with these things and deal with these tough questions, I've come to the conclusion that therapy does make sense at the end of someone's life on the come down. Okay? Like Mike Tyson, all these great figures that we all look up to and revere, and we try to reverse engineer their path to success. You guys have to understand they incur a lot of damage on the way to those peaks, right? They incur a lot of mental damage, they incur a lot of physical damage. Their bodies are destroyed, their mind is destroyed. Spiritually, they're warped. Spiritually, they're defiled. You know what I mean? Like they're just a wreck. But that's obviously the cost of doing business. Now, I believe when you beat the game of life and you have been the greatest, you've been the champ, you've held all the title belts, you know what I'm saying? You made all the bag, you fucking scored the 10 out of 10 wife, you got beautiful kids. I do think that when you get to the top of the peak and you are mangled, I do think possibly there's a slot for you in therapy at that point because now you can walk back. Now you can afford to walk back some of the damage that you've incurred. You know what I'm saying? Like you can walk some of that back now. Now you can afford to unwind and decompress. Now you can start going to hot springs and sort of fucking dealing with these like tantras and fucking, the Vedas, whatever the fuck you want to do. But you got to win first. You know what I'm saying? You have to get to the top first, and you're always going to get to the top unrecognizable to yourself. You're always going to be a mangled mutant. You know what I mean? You're not going to know who you are at the top from where you started. And I think that's what stops people from stepping forward the most is people will claim that the reason they don't go after things, that the reason they don't go after lofty or heroic goals is because what if I fail? How am I going to pay my rent? Am I going to starve? Am I going to be dead? Am I going to lose my shelter? We all know that's a crock of shit. We all know in modern day America, being homeless is a choice. You can pay your bills blindfolded in America right now. We all know that's true, right? It's not that you're afraid of survival. It's not that you're afraid of what you're going to do when you fail. It's not that you're afraid about your rent. That's the front. That's the excuse. What you're really afraid of is coming out the other side a completely different fucking person than the one that you recognize now. That's what you're afraid of. Because you might think there's no coming back from that. I'm going to fucking launch open some questions here. Hey, by the way, I'm going to have to institute, like last time, a very draconian policy with questions. If you're stuttering, if you're mumbling, if you're completely lost, not only am I going to kick you off the show, I'm going to block you into oblivion. So I need you to have very thorough, thoughtful questions ahead of time. And if you have a little, fucking 2-3 second soundbite of side commentary, feel free. But we got to keep the flow moving, and this is a fucking team sport, and it's your responsibility to keep that flow moving. Next gen, what's up, buddy? This cannot be real. Yo, Kumar. Kumar. All right, there's 2 blocks. If you have tech issues, I'm going to block you. Zachary, what's up, buddy?
What the fuck? Why is no one talking? What's up, Root?
They get fucking stage fright, my brother.
Dude, what the fuck? So, yeah, quick question. Keep it brief. Appreciate the time. So, I'm making like 100 to 150 cold calls a day, crushing my pipeline. Why are people in corporate America telling me cold calling doesn't work when it does? Like, what is up with that? Like, I know you said corporate America, like females are taking it over, but now I just feel like it's just like straight pussyville. Like, why are people telling me cold calling isn't working when it does?
I mean, dude, it's the whole shotgun versus sniper approach, right? Like,
Right.
obviously the shotgun does work. If you fucking, shoot grape shot all over town, of course you're gonna fucking score some hits. I mean, that's not the approach that I would take in this landscape. I think the sniper makes a lot more money. I think the sniper. I think the sniper makes a fuck ton more money than the shotgun right now. I mean, let's use Twitter as a fucking proxy example, right? Look at all the volume posters. Look how much volume most of these creators right now are posting a day, and look at the traction they're getting. It's fucking slim to none, right? Because the quality is horrific. Like, some of these guys are posting 30 to 45 times a day. That they don't go out, they don't leave their house, or maybe they are leaving their house and they're just tweeting all day. It's actually insane. Like, let me give you a prime example of the sniper. Look at my post to fucking follow ratio. I have under 5,000 tweets lifetime, under 5K, and I've got almost 85,000 followers. It's because I'm a sniper. I hone in on one target and I fucking blow heads off. You know what I mean? I've never been a huge volume numbers guy, and I'll tell you the reason why I'm telling you this is because I do think in this day and age, I think people are overly bombarded with that type of shit. Like, I think men need to find much higher value targets. God, that word higher value makes me fucking cringe. But it's true. Like, even with women, dude, like, I understand fucking going on apps and shit and fucking swiping. It's, oh, dude, this is all the same shit. This is all a fucking microcosm for reality right now. Swiping, everyone, that's fucking cold calling. Everything's fucking cold calling. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? But if you have a more specific question about the mechanism of cold calling, I could help you with that, because I was a fucking sales beast when I built my drone company 10 years ago.
Right. No, I appreciate that. Like, I'm leading my team in appointments and showings and everything, and they're telling me it's not working when they have no results. So I'm like, what the fuck? It's like a mind fuck. But no, I appreciate the
When you say
perspective,
it's
man.
not
Thank you.
working, just catch me up to speed, 'cause I haven't been in this game for a while. Are you saying people aren't even picking up the fucking phone, or people are you're just not converting?
Yeah, well, I mean, ever since COVID, it's crazy. Like when COVID started, a lot of people answered the phone in the B2B world, but nowadays it's hard. Like, so if you make 100 calls and you're decent, you should get like 3 to 4 appointments. And I'm around 6 to 8. And like my team, like they're getting like 2 appointments a week, but they're only making like 20 to 25 calls. They're putting in no volume,
Yeah,
and then they're saying it's not
yeah,
working. Like the math doesn't make
yeah. I
sense.
hear that. I mean, I get that whole fucking grinder hack and slash method. I just think with the tools
Yeah.
available to us, man, in this day and age, we got fucking better lead gen. I would really be fucking tightening up those lists and just going for hard targets. That's what I'd be doing.
Okay.
It's
Got
just
it.
gonna save you a bunch of headache. I mean, the grinder shit obviously works, but dude, a lot of these guys don't understand. Like, these grinders, these guys who want to outwork you. That's like being a
Yeah.
male thought. That's literally the equivalent of being an Instagram hoe, but in the male version. Like, working harder than other people is not an edge. There's plenty of masochistic, autoerotic motherfuckers who will outwork you all day because they fucking hate themselves and they're masochistic and they love the pain of putting the yoke around their neck and being a fucking oxen. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
There's like we live in a time of soft power right now. The hard grind, like, dude, infrastructure's built in America. We ain't really fucking building new roads anymore. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's way better edges. There's more fucking like mental warfare you can fucking conduct. Like, you gotta sort of try to figure that shit out, in my opinion. Because the grinder shit, there's always someone who's gonna
Yeah.
outgrind your ass. Always, bro. Like, you want to work smarter, not harder. That old adage is fucking brilliant because it's true.
Right. Yeah. So you're saying basically like me grinding all these calls, like it's working, but there's better ways at the end of the
Bro,
day nowadays, is what
there's
you're saying.
100 people in this space that are making more calls than you a day right now. Like, I don't give a
Mm.
fuck if you're hyped up on Adderall, Coke, and whatever the fuck you want to do, dude. You're not gonna outgrind these guys who have this fucking maniacal obsession with masochism. They're gonna fucking outgrind you all day. Now they're gonna make a lot less money over time because that's not an edge. Anyone can outwork another guy. You know what I mean? Like that whole Goggins shit, that shit doesn't work, bro. Goggins, that shit's like a very antiquated model. Like beating yourself up on the pavement for fucking 10 hours a day and shit. It's like, dude, you could have fucking reduced all that shit into an hour's crunch time just leaning into your personal edge. You know what I mean? Like I'm all about you got to let the subconscious cut corners for you, brother. The prefrontal cortex, you know, the brain that we all know that's near and dear to us. It's fucking stupid. It's not very bright. It's slow, dumb, and gay. You know what's really powerful? The most powerful computer system ever known to humanity. Nothing will ever come close to its output. Is the reptilian subconscious brain. That motherfucker is so sharp. It'll solve problems for you in your fucking sleep. As long as you can shut down that conscious brain and awaken the subconscious, you become a freak of nature. Because, like I just said in the story about Mike Tyson, it's his subconscious that drove him to be the greatest boxer ever of his era. That wasn't a conscious fucking decision. There was pain in the reptile brain literally forced him to do that. But he was smart enough to fucking abdicate the throne and give the fucking reins to the subconscious. So, I would put your fucking brain to sleep tonight and literally just let your fucking subconscious start doing some processes, bro. Because I think the grinder shit is super gay right now. But I
Appreciate
appreciate
the
your
advice,
question.
bro. Yeah, for sure, bro. Appreciate the time.
What's up, Dawson?
What's up, Root? I got a quick question for you, man. What
Shoot.
is your view on consistency? And what I mean by that is like, do you think no matter what business model or route you go down, do you think if you're consistent enough, you could truly make it in that business model?
Yeah, I do. I've never seen someone who truly believed it down to their bone that they were going to accomplish something, not accomplish it. I don't care how dumb or how many strikes against them they had. Like, I don't care if a motherfucker was born in Cody, Wyoming with a fucking with an amputated leg. I've literally never seen someone not relatively be able to script their life to about 90% of what they dreamed possible. I've never seen that happen. But the trick is you can't fake it. You actually have to believe it down to the marrow. That's the secret. And I mean, consistency, like, I'll give you an example in my own life. The only consistency that I have in my life is in my routine. Because your routine is always your fallback when you get your ass beat in life and you get pummeled. The only thing you can really count on as a man is your routine, and that's your sanctuary, and that's essentially your barracks, and that's where you garrison yourself to reimagine the person that you thought you were going to be. So for example, for me, the only consistency that I have is I pretty much go to the gym at the same time every day. I pretty much go to sleep at the same time every day. My diet is relatively the same year round. So that focal point, that fulcrum, you know what I mean, Archimedes lever, that's where I hang everything in the balance in my life. And so because I have that routine, it allows me to have a lot of the serendipity and sort of the stochastic chaos that I'm open to in the corners of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks,
You
Brute.
got it, bro. Thank you for the question. These two men are exemplars, by the way. This is exactly how the flow is supposed to go. That's fucking fantastic. Let's get Diary of an Amazon Seller. Yo, Diary.
Hey, Brute, how's it going? So I have a quick question for you. How do you defeat skepticism when you're trying to convince people to leave the 9 to 5 path? And let me make some clarification. I don't want to lie to people. I don't want to make false promises. Entrepreneurship is definitely not a quick path to success. It's definitely not easy, but people don't want to leave their comfort zones. So how do you attack this in the best way possible while remaining an honest guy?
Brother, anyone who, look, there's a certain amount of fate that's baked into the equation with all these situations, okay? Anyone that's working a 9 to 5 right now, they don't have that perennial sting that I'm talking about that Mike Tyson had, or they wouldn't be doing it. You know what I mean? Like, you guys got to understand the classic definition of a normie, or what we consider as an NPC or a normie on Twitter, is basically just someone who's been unable to harness the pain in their life. They've been really unable. They fumbled the ball so many times that they basically need dictation and direction from a human, right? From a human specimen. And that's what that is, because we all seek hierarchy. Men seek hierarchy naturally. Some of us get it from the divine. And when I say the divine, I'm obviously talking about that sort of spearheaded spirit that Mike Tyson experienced. People who've had insane trauma, they are going to get that dictation from the subconscious, which feels like divinity. It feels like a divine intervention. Now, trying to convince someone in a 9 to 5 to go the entrepreneur route is insane, because that person literally is in that situation because they're not harnessing their gifts. They don't have an edge. But I've said this before, and I don't want to downplay this because I'm being very, very fucking serious when I say this. I truly do believe if you don't have a discernible talent readily available at your fingertips right now, if you don't know what you're good at and you're in your mid 20s, you should double down on being a hyper normie. It's not really a bad path. It's really not. Like, you can go very far being lukewarm. You can. Many people have done it. You know what I mean? Many people are living a coherent philosophy right now. Tens of millions of people in America are living a coherent philosophy right now that you could not sell because it's not sexy. But there's tens of millions of Americans who have a family, they got beautiful kids, and they make a little bit of scratch. You know what I'm saying? And they don't really need to go beyond that. So, I mean, I'm all about leading by example. I don't I don't believe in fucking intervention. I don't believe in trying to steer people on fucking, bizarre paths. That's just not my thing. So that's the answer.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense. So don't try to convince
No,
those
because
who are already
they're
in the
in that
path.
position for the same reason Mike Tyson was in his position. Do you understand? There's a
Yeah,
harmony in nature, man. This biome cannot be disrupted. Nature is the great balancer. It's the great equalizer. It puts people in positions. People end up exactly where they belong. I'm telling you that for a fact. All roads lead to Rome. It means that whatever your destiny is supposed to carry you to, you will end up there no matter what fucking path you take. That's just a fact. So that's going to happen. So those people are slotted there for a very, very, very specific reason. And I love those motherfuckers because the universe works fucking perfectly. We have a perfect balance of 9 to 5ers, and we got a perfect balance of maniac fucking, titans of industry. And it's like my boy always told me when I was growing up. And I'll never forget this quote. My best friend in high school, he said, Brute, he's like, if there was only less than 1% more of people like you on this earth, he's like, the fucking earth would spin off its fucking axis into eternity and we wouldn't have a planet. And I thought about that. He's right. You know what I mean? Like, there's only a certain fucking divvy. There's only a certain fucking allotment of maniacs and fucking titans of industry and killers. And like, everyone goes exactly where they're supposed to go. That's kind of the beauty of life. And that's I don't say that to cause pain. I say that to cause alleviation. There should be peace in knowing that. You know,
that
it's
makes absolute sense.
there
Yeah.
are holy warriors that for sure have been able to intervene with the hands of fate. I'm not denying that. I do believe there are some men who, for whatever reason, their job and mission in this life is to try to intervene with their fate as much as fucking possible. And that's the biggest gamble of all. That's all I'll say.
Thank you very much, Rude.
You got it. See some new faces up here. Let's make this as fucking eclectic as we can. I'm already on my 5th cig, by the way. Lungs feel incredible.
Yo, Brute, can you hear me?
What's up, brother?
Yeah, I was wondering, what's your take on cheating? Because I haven't really heard you speak about that. Is it like the same as Tate's, or?
Nah, I'm not a fan, dude, at all. I think if you have to do anything sneaky behind a woman's back, you're pretty much a fag. I think if you want to do that behavior, I think you need to set the tone from the beginning and tell her straight up, like, I'm gonna be with other women. I think that's the hardest, bulletproof, foolproof way to go. I 100% do not advocate lying to women at all, because I've seen pathological liars lie to women, and women are fucking hounds, man. They're fucking hounds. They will always sniff it out. It's a matter of time. And then you just look like a complete fucking loser when you get busted. Because it's the least alpha thing you can do is to get caught in a lie with a woman. Literally. There's nothing more heinous to your image to a woman than when you get busted in a lie. Because the even in her biology, she's like, this motherfucker is so weak that he couldn't fucking stand with his chest out and tell me who he was. You know what I'm saying? Like, they have a super fucking built-in cringe mechanism for that shit. And then when the man gets caught lying to a woman, she just sees you as subhuman. She literally sees you as subhuman. Like, you're less than a dog. You're literally less than a dog. And there's nuance there, but we'll get into that another time.
All right, appreciate you.
Zaid, what's up, buddy?
What's up, bro? Appreciate the time. So I'm going to lay out a dichotomy for you, and I want to see kind of where you land in between. So I've heard you talk a lot about ideas centering around a lot of our edges or vices or fate. And you talk about it like it's super fixed into our identity. And I've had this philosophy where I believe our identities are super malleable, even though, or even the people that say think they're extremely introverted, that they can actually change that, right? So, an example for me is I quit nicotine a few months back, and I literally thought I never would ever quit it. And looking back, I realized it's because I literally associated nicotine with being gay. And I associated not being dependent on a substance like that with being sort of like this masculine, sort of strong identity. So just curious to see where you land in between the rigidness of our attributes versus the malleability.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you're fucking with a lot of abstraction there. I think a lot of things in life are certainly immaterial and, definitely transmutable for sure. But you're playing with a mental paradigm. You know what I mean? Like, you want to talk about the core of a man. I don't think anyone can convince me is malleable. I do think there's obviously modifications that can be made on the periphery of a man for sure. There's habits that you can absolutely cut out, etc. However, like I said on the last spaces, you're playing a dangerous game of Jenga. You know that game where you build the blocks and you take a block out and the whole fucking pillar falls? You never know when you change a habit how many other strengths in your habits that you're actually killing and suffocating. You never know. It might seem like cutting out nicotine is the move because you might be feeling good and you might be riding the high of just proving dominance over your own mind. And I'm a big fan of that, by the way. I'm a huge fan of proving to myself that I'm in charge of what I'm doing, for sure. I think that's absolutely beneficial, 100%. So I think showing yourself that you were able to do that shows that you're in control of the game, for sure. However, it's sort of an abstract mental thing that you're playing with. You know what I'm saying? It's not something really tangible. It's not tangible within yourself. It's not something that you really feel. Like, we could play these games all day long with ourselves mentally to show us how tough we are or how fucking spirited we are. You can do it with the no fap thing. There's guys that fucking, don't jerk off for 6 months to show themselves that they're fucking on some fucking, Christian Judeo crusade, and they fucking think they're the next coming of Jesus because they went 6 months without touching themselves. You know what I mean? Like there's all sorts of fucking mental deception and trickery we can play on ourselves, which is why I'm telling you. And the only weakness I see in the theory that you just mentioned is the fact that you're in the conscious. And like I just outlined, the conscious is very dumb compared to the subconscious. It is. It's stupid.
Yeah, I definitely get that. That's interesting that you said that because I just got addicted to nicotine again, kind of to get a lot more work done because I noticed I was a lot more productive. So that's definitely interesting.
Of course,
Appreciate it.
brother. That was a good question. Thank you. Guys, I also want to explain something to you. When I tell you the body is fucking genius, like I'm not kidding. Like even down to the health issues that your body gives you. Like your body gives you signals of everything that's going on. It's so much smarter than you. So when you develop like a mental pathology or some kind of vice or addiction, like your body is doing that on purpose. Do you understand? Your body is illuminating a path for you. And if you pay attention, it's revealing a lot of sources of pain that you're running from. And the whole idea is to take that fuel and put it into something that's a little bit better. The body don't make mistakes. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't. It doesn't give people maladaptive personalities and turn people weird and crazy for no reason. The body is trying to salvage something. It's trying to cleave onto life. It's trying to make the body spasm and freak out so that it makes a change, that it makes a radical change. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's no mistakes. If you have an affliction or if the body has given you something that you don't like, you have to see it through to understand what it is. And most motherfuckers are terrified of this experience. But you have to trust the body. The body will give you different personalities to diffuse different fucking situations. You know what I mean? This whole thing of multiple personality disorder, you should be a fucking stoic, you should be the same person around everybody. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. Different people, different scenarios, different situations require different fucking methods. You know what I'm saying? That's why I think virtue is kind of gay, to be honest, because some situations in life do require you to be sneaky. Some situations in life do require you to tell a fucking white lie. You know what I mean? Like you can't just stick your fucking flag in the soil and proclaim that I'm a virtuous man and I never, then you're the rock. You're the masculine rock that I talked about. And you're going to crack under a certain fucking pressure. So I don't think the body makes mistakes. I think it offers us all of these different fucking personalities and quirks and shit because it's helping us strive forward. It's all trying to aid us. It is. You know what I mean? Like even the bum who goes crazy, the bum has lost his mind and he's going crazy because he has a better chance of procreating in a crazy state than he does in the lethargic state, pushing his motherfucking cart at the fucking beach and not staring at a human soul. So his body's like, all right, we got like 3 years to live. We need to just make this whole fucking system fling into an abyss of insanity so that hopefully this motherfucker can procreate before he expires. Straight up. That's how fucking brilliant the body is. Any other advice to that one is a major fucking cope.
So what do you think about homosexuality or like say like pedophilia when it plays into that, right? These people having these toxic afflictions. That's kind of an interesting
Well,
thought.
well, I think homosexuality is a cultural strain right now. I think it's sort of eugenic in a way. I think that the dating market for men has become so steep. It's so hard to lock down a good solid woman. And I'm not joking when I tell you this. This is my personal theory. I think that there is one community on planet Earth that has no standards and will accept you for exactly who you are. This one community that I have in mind doesn't care if you're fat. It doesn't care if you're grotesque. It doesn't care if you're missing legs. It don't care if your testosterone's fucking 50. It don't care if you're driving a fucking Geo Metro missing wheels in the back. You know what that community is? It's the gay community. The gay community will accept any man on this planet for exactly who they are. You don't have to be anybody. You don't even have to have 1 cent in your bank account. You will get sex in the gay community if you're gay. And I do believe that a lot of men are seriously sick and tired of dealing with women because sex is a base male need. You know what I mean? Like, it's actually on Maslow's hierarchy. Men need sex. It's not just like a want, men need it. So they're going to get it any way possible. And I'm telling you, I think men are abandoning their posts and experimenting with homosexuality because they can't fucking score with women and anyone will fuck you in the gay community. We'll see how it plays out, but that's my theory.
Hey, Brute, back to finding
No.
like.
We're moving, bro. I appreciate the questions.
Okay.
Yo, Charles, what's up, bro? Charles.
Yo, can you hear me, bro?
Yo. Fire
Yo.
away.
Sorry, man. It's my first time using this Mac, but
Yeah.
could you speak on one meal a day and just your take on benefits or takeaways from that?
I like it a lot. I mean, it's pretty much the diet I've been on for about 10 years. Sometimes I'll do 2 meals a day. I like the 1 meal a day for sure.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of having to constantly fucking pillage a fucking pantry or a fridge for food at all. And I do enjoy the sensation of hunger. I think it's one of the like it's crazy, man. Even with water, I don't know why people think water is so fucking healthy, but it's not. Like, dudes are walking around with jugs of water all day, like just pissing out all their vitamins and minerals. Like, water is not hydrating on its own, by the way. I'm going on a fucking tangent, but I just think it's absurd. Like, people don't understand. Like, you need to change the chemical structure of your water if you want to get hydrated. So you should be putting like Celtic sea salt in it or drinking mineral water. Like, I just don't understand. Like, I genuinely think most people don't even know what it's like to genuinely feel hungry. Like, it's actually absurd. Like, when I eat, I'm fucking starving. I'm fucking ravenous. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's why I'm able to consume so much animal fat, because if you're not hungry, it's really, really hard to chew the grizzle on a steak. It's really hard to chew the fat if you're just not truly hungry. But if you've ever fasted for like 48, 36 hours and you get a fucking T-bone, you are polishing that motherfucker. You could put that fucking bone in the Smithsonian Museum. It's so polished. It's so fucking polished because the fat is so delicious when you're truly fucking hungry. So that's always kind of my barometer when I'm eating a steak that's super fatty. If I find myself picking around it and only eating the lean parts, I'm like, fuck, I ate too early. But dude, I mean, this is American culture. People have a fucking oral fixation. People just need something in their mouth to chew on or fucking drink all fucking day long. Walk around any street in America, people have beverages or food in their fucking mouths at all fucking times. It's insane.
Yeah, 100%. Could you also speak on hesitation, man, and just like
Give me context. Give me context for hesitation. Or are you hesitating right now to prove a point? All right, he's hesitating, fellas. We will move on. Yo, Keys. Yo. Blocked.
Brew, what do you think of full carnivore diet?
Full carnivore?
Yeah, full carnivore. Like nothing but just straight meat.
I mean,
Whether it's steak, chicken.
I think it's rudimentary. I think it's a good starting point. I think if your body can't handle veggies, I think you have a lot of inflammation in your gut. I think I'm coming full circle with this shit. I think if you can only handle meat, and you can't handle veggies, I don't think that's healthy at all. I think there's a lot of inflammation going on in the gut. But that's a conversation for later. I think my fucking